Hey folks, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name is JoJo. I talk about seasonal anime and hopefully stick around, check out some other videos of mine. Today we're going to be talking about my first impressions on BNA. I've seen the first episode and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. So, if you can't tell by the fact that I didn't say episode 1 or share this video on Twitter if you want to get shared out in next week's episode, I'm not really intending on coming back to BNA. At the very least, I'm not intending on making more content for BNA. And that's because, I'm sure I made this title something like, it's really good, but here's the thing, and I'm mostly making this video because I do have some things that I genuinely want to talk about in regards to BNA, and I am excited to share those thoughts with you, but I also wanted to make a video to say, basically that I've seen the show, because I know I got a lot of recommendations for BNA. A lot of people saying like, oh dude, you'll really dig it. It's got animal characters in it because I like Beastars, but the thing is, I'm not like, I don't know. I don't know what the definition of the word furry even means anymore. Some people say it's just if you like anthropomorphized characters, but then other people say like, nah, it's like a sexual thing. I don't know, but I do think people assumed that because I liked the world and aesthetic of Beastars that I would probably like BNA, which does feel like an inevitable comparison, which we'll get into more when I actually get into my thoughts on like the story and stuff, but I wanted to make sure that I made a video so that people wouldn't ask me on Twitter and everything, because here's the thing, and I'm fully prepared for people to get really mad at me, and if you are mad at me, I get it. I don't usually enjoy Studio Trigger shows. That's not to say that I think they're bad, because they're far from bad. Studio Trigger is a good studio, but their sense of humor and the shows that they make have never really vibed with me all that much. I really, really like Space Patrol Lulico quite a bit, but that's a short series, and I feel like Studio Trigger's more zany, out there, kind of cartoony, Looney Tunes-esque personality meshes really well with the short-term series, so I feel like that worked a little bit better, and it actually moves, unlike Inferno Cop. And the other series that I really liked by them was Darling in the Franxx, but at the same time, that wasn't just the Studio Trigger show. It was also handled by Cloverworks and A1, so it's a little bit of a standout, but those are the only two I really dug. And again, that's not to say that the other shows are bad, because some of the other shows include stuff like Little Witch Academia, which I do think is a good show. It just wasn't really for me. For some reason, I just didn't really gel well with it. And there's other shows like Kill la Kill and stuff like that that for some reason just don't gel with me. So when I saw BNA, I was like, okay, it's a Studio Trigger show. I'm wishing them the best. I'm sure it's going to be really popular, and I'm sure it's going to be great, but it's just not really for me. And I watched the first episode, and there was a moment where I thought that maybe it was going to be one of the rare ones where I actually end up really falling for it early on in the episode. But by the end, yeah, it's a Studio Trigger show. I'm not surprised. Again, that's not to say that I think it's bad, because I think there's so much here that is so cool. And if you love Studio Trigger, you are going to love this show. There's so much spectacle here, right? Like the palette changing from light pinks and purples into these deep reds and aquas. Like I'm thinking in particular of the bus scene. There's this scene on the bus where we meet, or rather where we see Michiro, the main character. We see her like take off the hood, and we really see her for the first time. And she's adorable. The character design is very, like, again, it's very much suits the Studio Trigger sort of cartoony vibe, because it's very much this like really cute design. And I cannot give Yukiko Kakita enough credit, because she is the color designer for BNA, and the colors, I think, are what makes the show pop so much. She also did the colors, or rather was a color designer for stuff like Little Witch, Kill la Kill, and also Carol and Tuesday, which was a surprise. But actually not a surprise when you look at Carol and Tuesday, but it's just, I wasn't expecting her to show up in something that wasn't Studio Trigger. And it was genuinely, Kakita's work is fantastic. I genuinely think the colors are the best part of this show for me, and likely for a lot of other folks as well. That's the thing about Studio Trigger in general, is usually the colors are on point, and they very much are here. The scene on the bus, like I was saying, it was the scene that almost made me think I was gonna fall for the show, because it's this beautiful scene with Michiro just sort of like sitting on this bus, and these light pinks and purples are just like so pretty and breathtaking, and it really caught me by surprise, and it sort of felt like a synth album cover come to life. And that's doubly true by the time you get to the synthwave-esque soundtrack on display here, because I swear this feels like those, like with the color palette chosen and the music that plays. Not only do the colors match every scene like perfectly, like letting you feel what the characters are feeling just by looking at the colors, the music does the exact same thing, and it's this dope synthwave aesthetic. It's fantastic. Mabanua is the one doing the soundtrack here. This is the same individual who did the music for Megalobox, which also had a great soundtrack. And it very much shows. They are an expert. I absolutely will be looking forward to any other works that they appear on, because it's super good. The music and the color choices are absolutely fantastic. Where the show starts to lose me a bit is some of the action scenes, some of the characters, and the comedy. I will say, of the Studio Trigger shows that I have seen, which is most of them in fairness, and again, they're not bad. I do think that like Studio Trigger is as popular as it is for a reason. They are a good studio. It's just like, you ever have that thing where you recognize that something is good, or like a person does good work, or in this case a studio does good work, and you recognize that it's good, but for whatever reason it doesn't, like, you can't, like, it's almost impenetrable. Like you're trying to get into it, and you recognize that it's good, but you just can't get into it. That's how I feel with most Studio Trigger shows, and unfortunately, it's how I feel with BNA. I can't help but feel like, while the colors are great, and it is animated really well, and the music's fantastic, the story, the characters, I'm not feeling it. And normally by the first episode, for some show, you guys know me, I'm a shippy dude, so I will find a ship, or I will at least like go crazy over a character design or colors or stuff like that. But here, I can't get into it, and I'll tell you why. The thing is, there's this inevitable comparison to Beastars, right? Because they're animal characters, and I knew this was gonna happen, that I would start to compare it, and I rolled my eyes when I had this thought, because I was like, why do I need to compare these two just because they're animal characters? But the themes of BNA and Beastars are sort of similar, basically about class warfare, essentially, like these two distinct classes who feel like separate from each other, and like there's like animosity between them. However, I can't help but feel as though Beastars, for me personally, not saying that this is how it is, I'm not saying it's objective, I'm just saying for me personally, the characters, the story, and most of all the themes of Beastars is infinitely stronger than it is in BNA. By having human characters, you really do make it obvious that the humans are the bad guys, and you make the mirror to ourselves more obvious there than it is in Beastars. And in Beastars, yeah, it's still obvious. You gather like what the carnivores are meant to represent, what the herbivores are meant to represent, what like all these different themes are meant to represent and mirror in our own society, but it feels less on the nose than it does in BNA. And again, that's not to say that BNA is bad. It's just, for me, I like my symbolism. I like getting to dig into like, what does it mean, that kind of thing. I just like a little bit more subtlety. BNA feels like it's loud, bombastic, and right in your face, whereas Beastars is a little bit more subtle with its themes. The characters feel deeper immediately. By episode 1, you immediately get the sense that Louis and Lugosi are significantly deep characters, even just from that basic introduction. And we spend the whole episode with Michiru, and I don't know what her character is. Sometimes she's sweet, sometimes she's a jerk, and it doesn't feel deep as much as it feels just sort of random. And that's not to say that I don't find her character entertaining. I thought she was a fun ride-along character for an episode, but again, I'm not really anticipating coming back. And that's not to say, again, that the characters are bad, it's just that they didn't really appeal to me. In the action scene, I wanted to really be into, but it was almost so zany and over the top, and it's again an issue that I have with Trigger, is while it looks crazy, cool, and fun, and wacky, and zany, when I'm trying to take something seriously and a character is bouncing another character like a basketball, while yeah, that is funny, I just have a hard time laughing at stuff like that. I just have a shitty sense of humor, maybe, and not even maybe, I definitely do. And I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me, and I wished I could be into it. I was really wanting to be into BNA, because a lot of you guys seemed excited for me to cover it. So yeah, this video is basically me saying I won't be covering it, but if you do have somebody who liked Beastars, I would say, yeah, you should probably tell them to check out BNA. It is very different, but the theme is sort of similar, and it also features anthropomorphic characters, so they might get into it, and especially if they like Studio Trigger, this is one to get somebody to watch, because I think this is really energetic. It has that Studio Trigger heart, but it also feels like it wants to tell a story about acceptance and accepting not only each other, but yourself. And I think that's a good message. And I genuinely feel like for a Studio Trigger show, this seems exactly like the quality stuff that they do put out. And again, Studio Trigger is a good studio. They just don't make stuff that appeals to me. With that said, everybody, I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. Hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from. I'm fully anticipating this video to be pretty heavily disliked, but hopefully you know where I'm coming from. And now hopefully people won't ask me to cover BNA on Twitter. And that's it for today's video, everybody, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, then be sure to go ahead and hit that like button and leave a comment down below, because it all pleases the almighty YouTube algorithm, which helps me out a ton. So if you choose to do so, kudos to you. And if you'd like to go that one step further to help the channel out, then go ahead and check out some of the mugs listed just under this video from our Teespring store. That is super appreciated. Or if you want to help out the channel more regularly, of course you can check out our Patreon, like these lovely people that you see before you. And speaking of our patrons, I would like to give a big shout out to those of you in the Earl Grey tier. Zevi, Andrew, Branson, Calvin, Crowbar of Irony, Daniel, Digger the Fox, Dominic, Emily, Ionos, Urza, Ginkotaku, Godzilla Fan, No For Nothing, Maria, Marshall B, Mater, Mirth Mouser, Cell, Shadow Creative, Steven, Sakochi, Tristan, and Veridin. Thanks so much to all of you in the Earl Grey tier, as well as those of you in the Orange Pico tier. And if you too would like to join our T-Squadron, then be sure to check out the first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord for as little as $1 a month. Once again, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys have a great day, and until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.